Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we talk about TV shows here. The year is 2022, and the name of the show is Babylon 5. It's going to be Season 5, Episode 13. It is called The Korra's Mother, The Korra's Father. So full spoilers for the episode, and it has been a little while since the last episode. Blame my vacation for that mainly, but just been a little bit hectic. We are going to be here every other week with new episodes now, alternating with Twilight Zone. That is the plan. But this is episode 13 of season 5, which is a Bester focused episode where he is the protagonist of the episode. It's him and two rookies from Psy-Corps investigating a murder which starts off at the Psy-Corps headquarters and then eventually leads them to Babylon 5, but there's very few actual Babylon 5 characters that show up, only Zack and Franklin, if I recall correctly. So we will get into all the good stuff. Tara, what did you think of the episode?
I thought this episode was pretty fun. I mean, everybody loves Bester, so it's good to have him be like the central character in this one. I enjoyed all the interactions. I like the with the main B5 people that we get. I thought it was a kind of a clever episode to really put you in the mind of Psy-Corps and how they are, you know, kind of, I don't want to say cultish, but they do kind of remind me of like Scientology. You get to see like how they're indoctrinated a little bit, and that's stuff like that. The
word that I was going to use. I felt like I was seeing how they indoctrinate people at Psy-Corps and how they convince everyone this is our way, and the normies they're terrible and we're better and we have to look out for each other.
I guess
and all
it's
that.
just like church-like, no matter what church you follow.
Oh yeah, a little bit Nazi-like as well at times. Yeah. You know, obviously their uniforms are kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, we already had that sort of storyline with Zack, and was that like season 2, and that was really great, or maybe 3, I'm not sure, but that was really great. So this one feels a little bit more like, no, we are another level above. Like they're not even the same species. It's like, and when they talk about the normies.
Yeah, the mundanes, I think they use as well. Yeah, it's an interesting episode. I didn't love it, but I did kind of like some of the beats of it, and just seeing it from Bester's perspective was kind of interesting. So that's and there's obviously an intriguing little twist with the murder suspect, which we'll get to. I think I appreciated just the little glimpses and like sort of this debate of like, can telepaths and normies live together? Can they coexist? And there's like Zack kind of is there to represent someone who doesn't like them very much, although that's very murky, I think, because he clearly was in love with Lita, so it's kind of like he's just kind of butthurt. That's all this really is. He's not really got like an actual hatred. If they ran into...
did we establish that they were in love?
Not he was in love with her.
I don't know. They always came off as like friends to me.
Well, no, they did until he got jealous. Remember, he got jealous when Byron was pumping her.
Well, okay. I don't know if it was like a. Well, she said you're jealous, but I don't know if that was like she's reading his mind, or if that was just like she's using anything to like get out of this awkward conversation.
I suspect he was jealous. I'm going to call it. But
hey, I'm not opposed to this romantic coupling, but I don't know. I don't know. I never felt that romantic chemistry between them.
Just saying, if they ran into Garibaldi, I'd believe his hatred for telepaths would come out singing and dancing.
That would take over the whole episode if Garibaldi and Bester were in the same room together.
Alternatively, Franklin's like the optimist who believes they can coexist, and like when Bester's injured later on, he goes to help him, and Bester accuses him, that's just instinct kicking in. If you actually had time to think about it, you wouldn't help me. And Franklin's like, bitch, scan me. Like, you've got permission, scan me right now. I'm a goddamn doctor, I help people. That's what I do. So which I actually like that. I like that he's like, oh, go on, prove it, scan me, go on, do it, I dare you. Like, I love that confidence. That was nice. But I
like the Franklin stuff in this a lot.
Yeah, and the ending was quite dark as well, which is like, this is how they actually treat mundanes, because they arrest the mundane along with the telepath murderer, who's also a telepath. And then when they're in hyperspace, they just kick the mundane out into the space, and he just dies. And like the new rookie, this young woman who really wants Bester. Like this is kind of a running plot thread throughout the episode. She's into him. She sees Chekhov's love interest, you might say.
I don't not hate it.
I think what I liked about it was him cracking all these jokes about how the love of his life is not his wife. He has a couple of little lines where he's like, "Oh, my wife doesn't live here. She's back at this home somewhere." And he's like, "Oh, that must be nice having someone who you love." And he's like, "Yes, it is. And if my wife ever finds out, there'll be a problem."
Well, he is in love with the one that's a popsicle, right?
Yes, that's why he says that she's not here right now, but hopefully one day she will be.
Yeah.
So he's holding a torch.
Also, leaving a little window of opportunity open for this young recruit to be like, so he cheats.
Well, he does say to her, "Look, if that changes, you'll be the first to know."
Gross.
Yeah. I mean, it's admirable that you're hoping for a Demolition Man style revival of your love interest there, Bester, but like, I don't know. This like 22-year-old's throwing herself at you. She's even offering him a back rub later on. She's like, "Bester, you've had a long day. You could use a back rub."
She just wants what's best for the core.
Yes, more of that indoctrination, no doubt. But then he's like, no, just murder the human. That'll do. That'll do for now. That'll do
first.
For her first. Yes, never forget your first mundane kill. So.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of saw that coming anyway. With I wonder what I bet they're gonna kill him.
I think it was. I was
a little surprised that he was floating out in space. It seems like the easiest way to do it, but like it doesn't seem like it's very easy on like a little transport ship like that. Because like I didn't see an airlock.
I assume there is one. I guess you didn't see it. Budget, I guess, but. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be kind of shocking in that her and the other rookie who dies, about 2/3 out of the episode, they both seem like relatively nice people, and I think that's kind of the point. Is they seem quite nice and likable. They just believe in Psychor so much that it's like, okay, these are two seemingly reasonable people, young people, but they believe in all this shit so much. They worship Bester. They think this is the promised land. They believed in the Kool-Aid and all the shit they're selling.
They're special, right? They get told they're special over and over again.
Yeah,
that's all anybody wants to hear.
I loved how there was like trust the core just like up in every room, because we see like roommates like doing psychic battles because for training purposes, and there's just like these signs up all over the place. Trust the core's mother, the core's father.
We get to see the psychic visualize as well, the trying to break into each other's brains, which is a special effect of like wobbly effects and like maybe some pointy effects.
I did like, because later on they look at security footage of, so it was like one student killed another student and fled while they were doing one of these psychic battles. I liked it when they get the security footage later. The young woman's kind of like, it's a shame we can't record the telepathic thoughts, and hear them now through the recording. I kind of appreciated that, because she's kind of acknowledging like a weakness in their powers, and Bess is like, in time we'll solve that. We'll solve that conundrum in time.
We're working on it.
We got
the best minds on
it. We'll record telepathic thoughts and play them back. It'll be easy.
I did think it was a bit much that Bester had to rewind it 3 times in order to hear the thing that was super obvious from the first watch through, of where he says leave him alone or something, where he's referring to himself as in third person, and it's like super obvious the first time, but then Bester has to watch it 2 more times.
Yeah, the twist with the killer is that he has some sort of multiple personality disorder, and only one of the personalities murdered the guy. So the regular one that's usually in control is a nice dude who doesn't really do anything. But one of the other personalities killed his roommate because his roommate maybe discovered him whilst he was in his head. And the weirder thing about this that I thought was kind of interesting is that the regular guy is a P10, but the killer personality is a P12. And Bester relates this to like, multiple personalities where one's an artist and can like paint like beautiful portraits, but then the other personality can barely draw a line. And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting concept. It almost feels like there's more to do with it. I almost hope this character comes back and this is set up for later, because it feels like there's so much potential in a telepath who has multiple personalities, and some are more powerful than others. Like there's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not a direct one-to-one comparison, but I was thinking of the movie Logan and like what happens when, you know, someone like Professor X, who, you know, his mind starts to go, and but he has all these incredible abilities with his mind, and like, how do you control that? And maybe like Split would be a more appropriate thing to compare it to, but I don't know, those kind of things. Like, I think, you know, Logan did a great job at it, you know, sort of making a story around that about a superpower for someone whose mind is going.
I want to say Heroes might have had a character like that as well. I couldn't tell you too much, but I feel like that was the thing.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I stopped watching after season 2, so after the writer's strike season.
Oh, it got really bad. Yeah, there's no shame in that.
Honestly, the first season wasn't as good as I remember it anyway.
The first season went downhill quite a bit in the second half, but there was one really good episode in the second half to make everyone think, oh, maybe they've still got it. Maybe this will still be really good. And then it's kind of fizzled out.
Is it with the guy who can, like, time travel?
No. The episode in the second half of the season that was really good is the one that kind of... It basically made you care about the guy in the glasses because he was looking after his daughter. It was kind of like this heartfelt episode that was like, oh, he's been the villain the whole time. And
he did come off villainous, didn't he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but now it's like, oh no, he's actually kind of heroic because of the way he saves his daughter or whatever. I don't know. It's been too long. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. I can't really get too specific, but yeah. So I thought that was an interesting concept. I kind of hope to do a little bit more with it because it is a bit more fascinating than perhaps as just a throwaway reveal in this episode. And I think up until this point, Babylon 5 has been great at like introducing things like this and then bringing them back later down the line. But because we're so close to the end, and because I know this is only like the one season thing, I'm like, oh, maybe there's not time. Maybe it won't come back. You know, so I'm not sure now if it's going to come back. But
you don't think Bester has a secret personality? Probably not. No.
That'd be a hell of a reveal. Is there a nice Bester? I mean, is like a good guy Bester going to come out?
Maybe the evil one's just been in control the whole time. Yeah.
Maybe the good one will come out and he's got a Russian accent. No.
Start talking about nuclear vessels.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I still enjoyed it. I thought the one part that made me laugh though is the recruitment video they have to watch, where the guy's like, I used to look like this, and it's just him in a wig with a dirty face and.
Oh yeah. Well, it's specifically
when he was a blip.
Yeah, it's specifically a telepath who ran away and tried to flee, and then they brought him back in. He was like this homeless looking guy. And,
yeah, he must have joined the hair gang. It was brought back.
Yeah, I don't know. Byron's crew looked very clean when we saw them. They were all pretty well kept.
Yeah,
as far as people go.
Maybe he bought a wig, a terrible wig, and then was trying to get into the Byron's gang.
They've all got their shampoo hair, commercial hair. Every time they walk around, it's swinging in slow motion, just naturally.
Yeah, exactly. But he got caught, so he got sent back to the core. Had to remove the wig, wash his face.
Nah, so
I love that when Bester turned it off early, and the recruits are like, "But we were liking that, like we were enjoying it. Why'd you turn it off?"
It was just getting
they must
interesting.
Really like the core.
Oh, they love the core. Yeah. You know what Al? I think his name's Al. No, Apone. When Apone wakes up in Aliens, and he's like, "Every meal a banquet, every paycheck a fortune." I love the core. That's exactly. Them in the morning when they're talking about side core. Yeah, that's them. Yeah, but there was some fun stuff. Obviously they encounter Zach when they arrive. I love Bester's reaction when he realizes he has to go to Babylon 5 again. In fact, I also really liked. He's got a little speech to the cadets early on where they're like, "Oh, isn't Babylon 5 like your main assignment? Is it not like your jurisdiction, Bester?" And he's like, not as much as you would think. See, Babylon 5, they have this way of thinking to the center of the universe and that everything revolves around them. It felt like almost like a little meta, like wink wink joke of like, yeah, everything revolves around Babylon 5 because that's what the show's about. But, that's their hubris. Like, there's more important things happening sometimes elsewhere.
What I thought was clever about the scene with Zach is that, because we're getting it from the perspective of the core, he's got these young recruits with him, Bester does, and he's telling them, oh, yeah, well, the mundanes, they don't understand. They think they're better than us, and obviously we're better than them, and we can't get along. We can't live together. And then the first, mundane that they meet on Babylon 5 is Zach, who clearly like hates Bester and is immediately like putting him down. So it's just this, it's the recruits are just seeing this as a oh yeah, like they do all hate us and we can't ever get along with them. So it's putting a different spin on the whole. Like obviously we understand why Zach hates Bester and doesn't trust anyone that he's bringing, but immediately it's not putting a good foot forward to these new people who can possibly be, still saved in a way.
Yeah. No, it's funny because we've been jumping around this episode a bit because it kind of just like I don't think the plot of the murder investigation is all that exciting on its own. Like there's all right parts to it. The guy like goes gambling and it turns out he killed a guy, but he kind of like read his mind to find out how to gamble first. There's that really interesting little bit from the lady cadet where she's like, "That's weird. He was winning at gambling, but because gambling's prohibited in Psychor, because obviously they can cheat. Like, we don't really know how to do it, so we're not actually very good at it when we try." And I'm like, how do you know that? Like, how much dodgy gambling's going on behind the scenes at Psychor that they're not supposed to be doing? But if it was going on behind the scenes, then surely they would get better at it, because they'd be practicing.
Unless they're playing against other telepaths, yeah.
That's true, yeah, maybe they're still shit at it. But, I don't know, have we ever heard in the show before about telepaths, like quickly learning skills from people? By reading their brains. I don't know if we've heard about that before.
No, but I imagine gambling would be an easy one because if you need to know what cards somebody has, if they're thinking about the cards, then you're like, okay, I know not to bet here.
I suppose if it's just learning the rules to a card game, I suppose that's quite believable. But it's just, it almost raised the question of like, wait, but can you like read someone's mind to become a pilot? Like kind of like in the Matrix, where you just download it quickly. Like you just sort of like do. Oh, there I've got pilot knowledge. I've never got that impression before, but it was just the way she said it made me, oh, is that possible?
I guess. I imagine, I bet I think gambling's special, because gambling, if you know what the other person is thinking, if they have a good hand, or if you're able to project and see what they see, even, who knows, what the different levels are like. I think that's different than if it's, trying to retain how to fly something. Doing something without practice, because in the moment you have to make a decision of like, do I bet? Is this a good hand? What do other people think of their hands? That would be a huge advantage.
Yeah, I concur. I'll just play with my camera settings while you talk because it didn't look right.
Yeah, I see all the boxes popping up on my end.
But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent episode. I don't know if by the end of it I felt like I got like a super full meal out of it. Like it's got a through line where like Bester talks about living with mundanes, and there's a couple of characters who kind of like present arguments for and against from the humans, and then at the end he's like, "Nah, see, I'm right. We can't live together," even though Franklin's kind of tried to give him some good reasons why they can. And it's like, okay,
Bester calls him one of the good ones.
He does. He calls him one, which. There's obviously that draws allusions to particularly racist language and things like that. So
yeah,
I think I got to the end of the episode. I was like, okay, that was a nice little slice of life of Bester. There was some cool moments to it. But I think like a lot of the better episodes of season 5, it kind of feels like this is a nice slice of life thing, but because we're getting all of these after the main story's done, they do all kind of have this feeling of like, oh, this was nice, but.
Yeah.
Whereas it would have been really good if it was like...
It's a nice little world building thing,
yeah,
but,
if this was like...
It's not leading to anything big.
Let's say this was like an early season 4 and it was like between like 2 big plot episodes, it probably would have been a nice breather to like stop and do this. Whereas here it feels like we're getting a lot of episodes like this. So, that's the one thing that I would say season 5 feels like to me, is that there's a lot of just nice little episodes that are back to back.
I wish they watched more propaganda videos. That would have been fun. Or like the one that we got with the kid with the commercial for Psychor. Back in like season 3 or something.
That was like that was like the recruitment, or if you think you have powers. Yeah.
Should have got more stuff like that.
There might have been an element of if you see something, say something going on.
That.
Yeah, there was some.
I mean, I agree. It feels like a fun little treat for the fans rather than like this is building up to something. I mean, obviously what else is left for us to build up to other than Psycor and the big war?
I will say
with that, but...
there's 2 guest stars I want to point out. One of whom I think is the worst guest star they've ever had on this show.
That's a...
I know.
That's
so
a statement.
It's the guy that comes after the fugitive when he's like demanding his money back. I thought he was maybe the worst actor we've ever seen in this show. He was like, every line he came out of his mouth was making me cringe. It was awful. So shout out to that.
I don't know. I don't think anybody will ever beat the guy from I think it's Grail, or the one that was like the bad luck for the other Babylon stations.
Oh no, he wasn't as bad as this. Like, he wasn't good, but he wasn't as bad as this. I'll stand my ground here.
All right.
I'll stand my ground.
It has been a while since that episode. But
alternatively,
it's memorable.
The bartender that the male cadet goes to talk to at one point has a great jawline, and I thought he was quite memorable in a nice way. I was like, oh, you've got a really... In fact, he's got such a good jawline. I'm like, you've definitely played an alien on this show with that jawline. They've definitely covered you in makeup before for an alien. Like, that's how good of a jawline he had.
Well, I'll have to rewind and check it out.
that was the thought I had looking at his face. But yeah, so...
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about, because I think I remember looking at the TV for a second while I was cooking and going, that's a great face, and then going back to my cooking. I've watched this episode a couple of times, so
yeah.
I more just scanned it today.
This was your second or third viewing of it.
Yeah. During the last mix-up.
Yeah, I guess it was also kind of interesting to see Bester report to a superior, because we've never really seen him do that before, I don't think.
That's true, yeah. He's always the one in charge whenever we see him.
But he's reporting to the guy with the mustache in this. So, there's nothing interesting really happens with it, I don't think. But it was just, we don't usually see that from him, so.
That's true.
Worth mentioning. But, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it. It is kind of weird, like, how few of the cast members... I said this maybe a few episodes ago, that maybe they were intentionally doing this so they could shoot 2 episodes at the same time because they were using different cast members. But it would have, like, been nice to maybe run into Lita during the episode, perhaps, because she's a telepath.
Garibaldi would have changed the episode entirely.
Garibaldi, he would have altered things, or at the very least had to go to Lockley for permission for something. In fact, I think at one point Bester even says, we're going to need permission to go through this door as a formality, but we never see any of it. We don't really need to. I believe that he's right and that all this stuff's in play, but it's kind of interesting. We don't see a single other person other than Zach and Franklin. But it's that's what it is. So
yeah, I mean, it's a fine episode, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's season 5 and we know it's added on. It's like an add-on season.
I kind of hate that, like, when it comes to stuff like this, where it's like, oh, because we know this, it's interfering with their perception. Like, if I watched this not knowing that season 5 is kind of like tacked on after they'd already kind of written the ending, I still think I'd feel a difference. I might not be able to tell you why it's different, but I think I'd notice the difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, like you brought up before, we know that this would probably be foreshadowing something bigger, like that telepaths can have multiple personalities, just like, mundanes can, but it's much more dangerous when they do because they have these things. Because nothing in, the first couple of seasons was, like a standalone story, really. Everything kind of worked its way back into the show.
They felt like at the time, but the vast majority of them ended up being like a setup for something that came back later, which was cool. That was really nice when they did start coming back.
And I'm not saying that this can't, but it feels unlikely, or it feels less important.
Just because we're so close to the end, yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, there you go. That's the episode of B5. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. You can, of course, go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses at various tiers. So go and have a look at all that. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the homeworld.